Done so much.
Stop. Let's talk about this.
Let's talk about it. Hey, in January of 2022, our lives changed, and we went to this incredible dream. Hold on, dream-like Airbnb, and it's gonna be an actual vlog here coming soon. So check for that. But that's not this. And I met this guy named Troy Casey. He's a nut. He literally calls himself a nut, a certified health nut. We went for a walk. And we went to this church, went for a bike ride. He has cool electric bicycles. I love them. He let me ride them. I just wanted to talk with this guy. And although we did actually film an episode for his podcast while we were walking, by the way. And then we did a breath work, which is also on his YouTube. I sat down with him for an hour and we talked about all kinds of stuff. And this is that. What you're about to watch is that. Sorry, can we use this other one for audio as well? Wow. Behind you?
Yeah, you can use anything that you want.
Fully Reflective Podcast.
Ethan and Nolan about to start. Cool. Everybody home? Yeah. Quiet on the set. Sync audio vibe. Welcome back to the Fully Reflective Podcast. I'm here with self-diagnosed psycho chicken, certified health nut, Troy Casey.
Certified, baby.
Certified.
Certified.
Where did that term come into your life as like, I'm going to brand this is going to be part of my identity? And this is probably a segue also to like, who are you? What's happening here as this soul?
Yeah, I was in the Amazon in 2006. I started working with an herbal company, and I won a trip down there to meet our indigenous partners, and I drank ayahuasca, and I came out of that evening with a vision of an amalgamation of. I've been on camera. I started out as a Versace model in the late 80s. And I started studying natural medicine at that time because I used to bloat. I used to have digestive issues, and that would affect my career. You know, the agents would be like, "Oh, honey, you're fat today," something like that. And I was like, I'm a young man trying to build a career, and so I went down to the American bookstore and started researching nutrition and fasting and herbalism and internal purification. And 20 years later, I found myself in the Amazon. This was post-alcoholic rock star, Versace model phase. I'd already started meditating. I was in the Amazon drinking the ayahuasca, and the idea of an amalgamation of my on-camera career. I was doing stand-up comedy at the time, and my natural medicine studies and certified health nut popped into my mind, and it flowed perfectly. And I was like, "That's it."
Wow, powerful. Yeah, I shifted me for sure as well. It's like it grabbed the medicine that was already present in the personality construct and then repurposes it for service. Mm-hmm. Very interesting.
Yeah, it flipped me on. I'm very clear. My mission is to raise human consciousness and change all systems. And my vision is clean air, water, soil, and equitable systems for all mankind in my lifetime before I leave.
How'd you define Christ consciousness?
Christ consciousness, I would have to say, is the frequency and vibration, very similar to coming out of an ayahuasca ceremony, right? Grateful for all experiences, right? Nothing but forgiveness and gratitude and love for everyone and everything. So Christ consciousness is when we can come up to that octave. Like, that's an amazing feeling after ceremony. The lights come on.
Unity
consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it just fucking feels good.
Yeah.
Just grateful for everything and love with everything.
Yeah.
Always and forever.
Yeah. I saw some early videos and the aesthetic was definitely different. What was, I guess I see how the kind of integration into your like dharma probably pulled you out of that old identity tapestry. Beard probably came, hair probably came. What else came? Did anything
My nutsack fell down and fucking got right into place. I mean, the thing is I was going along to get along, right? Who am I? You know, I put a lot of this in my book, Ripped at 50, A Journey to Self-Love, and I've got my second book, Brave New Man, coming out very soon. You know, the thing is what was the question you were asking again?
Well, just like the transformation.
Oh, well, I went through a divorce, right? And I stopped caring what people thought about me. And I was a model in front of the camera for many years, and I had that classic, you know, man look. Right. Clean shaved, you know, classic look, usually short hair, very coiffed. And
ditto for me. Acting, was in a Disney movie, always clean, always properly presenting the persona.
Yeah, fuck that shit.
And at some point, the dirt of the medicine, plant medicines, were like literally showed me I was like stealing something from my organic, authentic, vibratory state.
Soul, yeah.
And also something about being literally disconnected from the fur and the dirt. Blessings to Malachi, the dog. Yeah, there's this insight I've seen is like Western Caucasian people getting back to the roots of Gaia through plant medicine, kind of from the heart of the American matrix, kind of like the thickest part of the matrix on Earth, I feel, is in America. Not necessarily just in Los Angeles and New York, but kind of as a echo chamber of like the densest part of the matrix. It's like America leads culture, America leads all these things. Mm-hmm. And then so like who are Western European, you know, lineaged people that come here, and then basically individuals like this have this, I'm super disconnected from this thing that's like absolutely essential to my well-being. Mm-hmm. And then this reacclimation to dirt happens, which I see this connection of like dirt and literally pigment that gets you closer to Gaia. And also it's kind of a long unpack about what is melanin. Mm-hmm. Do you have a signal on what is melanin?
I'm not sure about the molecular and biological aspects of melanin, but I've heard it talked about, and it also, I'm an intelligent human being, so we can just think about it and download it, right?
That's it.
So melanin, I'm assuming that's in our skin. Our skin is photovoltaic receptors, right? Plants have, pods and leaves that they can go towards the sun. And as human beings, we have that same ability to absorb the sun through our cells. The melanin...
May I?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So I see it as like an atomic anchor for soul consciousness into this density. And also it's a perfect karmic kind of reflection of whatever any soul needs to integrate into society, and it kind of puts you at this different displacement around the trauma of the collective herd. And also is this like photoreceptor kind of thing as well, reflects how deep the sun has woven into or heated the kind of literal pigment skin of that hominid. But I see it as like literally an anchor into Gaia. Like I see also ancestrally like really heady people seemingly kind of lack melanin. Really like a culture developed from people that were kind of deprived of this photosynthesis receptor kind of component of what helps you kind of stay quote unquote grounded.
Well, that has, it's obviously an interesting area of discovery. I certainly don't know anything, and I haven't put all these anthropological pieces together. But I do understand that the original man was black.
Yeah. You've heard the out of Africa theory.
I kind of know the essence, but we're all black ultimately, and Jesus Christ was black. If you're looking at the people of the day, from where the brother came from,
yeah,
and he was an actual human being and not just a story. Yeah, and I followed this one black brother that came out of like Harlem or New York City. He was kind of one of those those guys that argue on the side of the street with everybody, those kind of
5%ers?
Israelites or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just one of those kind of guys. I love watching them on the internet debate each other and
Yeah.
stuff. And I'm like, wow. Yeah. So one of them took off to Costa Rica and just got all naked and himself and tried to get the women, a lot of black women. And
Sounds like you're talking about Nature Boy.
I think that's him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was pretty interesting. And he get all the women to take off their clothes and grow out their hair. And he had some interesting things to say about melanin and the self, right? Spelling
Cells.
it was cells. And, and of course he's one of those people that is a fine line between genius and insanity, like my friend Old Dirty Bastard was.
Man.
It's that fine line. The crazy's there and the genius is there too.
Yep. And also how I've looked at his situation for a minute, and it's like, man, there's obvious like hyper integrated intelligence, Christ consciousness, unity consciousness, and then also that kind of feedback of what that, when someone embodies that and then says like, I'll lead a community, and then the whole guru persona thing.
Oh my God.
The ego is definitely still present, but now it's from this kind of
self-fulfilling prophecy.
Man, and Messiah complex, but also
how's he doing now? I haven't followed him in a couple of years.
I haven't checked in either, but I started scanning
because it started to break off.
It started to get a little. I saw a couple things,
viral videos.
I don't know,
sexual stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like
a couple issues with some things. I started getting less interested, but I've looked at situations like that as like I've been fascinated by what awakening does to different people. Like awakening looks so many different ways. This is one version. This is one version. And yeah, were there any primary guide points for you as you were like, we just recently was talking about Paul Chek, which I'm fascinated by an individual like that has, to me, was like, that's unity consciousness, but embodied, integral, someone like Ido Portal. Mm-hmm. Ido Portal?
Yeah.
Love consciousness like that. It's like, if it's not functional, just shut the fuck up.
Right.
Like,
talk is cheap.
Yeah, talk is cheap, and embodiment is the ultimate integration. Mm-hmm. There is no wealth of health. There is no wellness. There is no spiritual, cognitive that's, hyper ascended identity complex that's worth, or that actually it can't happen without a super functional physical foundation of wellness.
Well, and I think Paul postulates that the mitochondria and the density in the cells from lifting weights actually gives you more motor neurons and brain material and nervous system material to actually think. And the Greeks were onto this with the wrestling and the weightlifting. The Spartans, they were all about physical strength. As above, so below is the natural law of correspondence, one of the 7 natural laws.
Okay.
And so, strong mind, strong body.
And
strong body, strong mind. Flexible mind, flexible body.
This would be a nice segue into a pop culture relevance. Where the hell does this then affect this recent couple decades of like the rise of feminine kind of masculinity is what I see it as, but it's all to me meant to be integration. But then
that's chemical castration. I'll just call it for what it is.
Chemical castration.
Yeah, absolutely. There's xenoestrogens and plasticizers and plastic manufacturing plants all around here, and it affects the hormone balance, which is very delicate, and you can't isolate an individual hormone. So elevated stress hormones, chronic elevated cortisol is going to create inflammation. Which creates disease. So this is kind of the path.
So you're talking about a biochemical effect of anthropological developments in technology, plastics, chemicals that became predominant in culture and products that literally affected
block receptor sites. So the testosterone can't even get in there. And if you're a child and you're building and you're feeding the child soy and seed oils and these other things, the child won't be able to develop. The mandible itself will not develop.
What's the mandible?
The jawbone. So and the skull. And that's also brain development, right? So you got the gray matter. So child development is huge. I studied this with Paul Chek and all the Steiner principles. Rudolf Steiner was another living master. And his legacy that he left, a lot of it's based in Waldorf education. And I learned so much just sending my children to Waldorf education. And I recommend Waldorf education for everyone out there. And Waldorf education makes the shift, right? Everything else goes. All the industrial age, everything that we've seen in the school system goes.
You said it makes a shift, like it's going to make the cut in
Correct.
terms of our evolution.
Correct. Yeah, Steiner was an evolutionary. So the xenoestrogens, they plug receptor sites, and so the hormones can't function properly. So men have been literally chemically castrated. A 5-year-old boy has the same amount of testosterone as a man. And that testosterone is utilized to develop his skull and his musculoskeletal system. And if he doesn't have those tools, he won't develop properly into a man.
And then identity crisis hits.
Well, and then the social engineering and everything else just goes through the roof.
And I also, it's like, this has obviously been part of where we've been growing, because there was so much use of testosterone, hypermasculine, ego-based, war, like past how many thousands of years, it's like war became the norm, and that's not sustainable. So it's definitely part of the evolution of humanity for men to become more sensitive and emotionally intelligent. But
fully integrated and
yes,
balanced.
Fully integrated. So for
and that
females,
goes for both, male and
become
female.
more
And this is what my
masculine.
new book is all about. It's not Brave New Man. This is Brave New Human. And the book, the subtitle of the book is How to Be Your Motherfucking Self. Right? If everybody's just them fucking selves, you know what the body needs. You know you don't step on your brother and sister without stepping on yourself. On the land, you don't shit in your waterways and shove it in your mouth and act like, oh, there's no problem with that. We know our local environment. Biomimicry states life creates conditions conducive for life. And I do believe the saving grace and the term that can't be co-opted is biomimicry. They've already hijacked global warming and climate change for economic and political gain. Right? They're hijacking all these principles, these environmental principles, because nobody wants to hurt Gaia. And everybody's like, yeah. But until motherfuckers on the media start talking about a world beyond oil, it's all fucking bullshit. A world beyond oil and a world beyond the petrodollar, which keeps all the old antiquated systems entrenched.
Okay, this is cool.
And this is my observation as far as I can see it, coming out of the Amazon, wanting to save the rainforest from 2006 with my visions that humanity makes it from the precipice of ecological disaster that we find ourselves at right now with these xenoestrogens and phthalates and other disruptive chemicals that are in our environment, this toxic soup that we're living in. We've been pumping billions of pounds of toxic compounds into the environment since the dawn of the industrial age. So that's the last 150 years. Bioaccumulation of toxicity builds up in human tissues. We're seeing that being expressed right now with autoimmune, newfangled diseases, chronic fatigue across the board, hormonal issues in men, women, and children, childhood obesity. These things are abnormalities, right? And it's layered on every single level, especially because the chemical castration, especially because the chemicals affect cognitive function, who we are and what we're doing. Then you get the social engineering. You put the kids in state-sponsored schools where they watch them for the ADHD and they try and find something wrong with them, get them on the drugs, and then that's it. And actually the drugs start at birth, right when the baby pops out of the womb. They fucking inject them with all sorts of shit. Put the K stuff on their eyeballs. And look, the vagina has the gut microbiome that populates the baby when it comes out. Like there's so much fucking intelligence. We'll just do a C-section. Let's just pencil in a C-section because I got to go on the golf links later on today. Okay? Because that's the fucking truth. All you fucking doctors out there, right? And the nurses that call me that their heart is broken and the way they treat women during the birthing process, which is the most fucking natural thing on the planet, right? And so we've just gotten real far out of balance, and we treat like a birth of a child as like a medical procedure or like a problem that needs to be solved in the hospital.
Well, shouldn't even be happening in hospitals.
Correct. Armando, bright lights. You're entering in the earth plane. Bright blue lights that affect the hormones.
There's
and
all these people talk about like UFO abduction stories being hyper paralleled to literally just coming out of the womb in a freaking bright light, doctor hospital room.
Yeah. Well,
being observed on, look at these people in masks and like goggles.
It's hell.
It's like
Oh my
literally
God, I ended up in hell. What does that do to the nervous system? What happens to the nervous system of two parents that are fist fighting? I had to do research in my own birth, and I've worked with Maori healers from New Zealand, indigenous Maori healers, very powerful people, and they specialize in birthing and fertility. So I did a lot of research on just my birth, right? And I was pulled out with scalpels, right, out of the vagina by my head. That's why I'm a fighting motherfucker, and I can't stop. It's like in my neurology. It's like, you're going to pull me out of the fucking womb. Let's fight, motherfucker. I'm ready to fight everyone at all times. And so the last 20 years, I've been trying to meditate that shit out of me. Yeah. And so, but yeah, I looked at it. The Navy had old movies about this. So they put these like spatulas inside the vagina and pulled the baby out by the fucking skull, motherfucker. It's like, that's why I'm so like ready to fight. And my parents were fist fighting in the womb, probably, who knows, over money or just misunderstanding. We didn't have the tools. We have no rites of passage. You stick the penis in the vagina, there's no responsibility? What the fuck? No, there should be a real responsibility. Little boy, take a stick, go out in there and fucking come back with a fucking hungry wolf, or come back with whatever, right? And then that was your rites of passage. The Maasai, actually, they give the kids a little stick and they got to kill a lion. They're the only humans on the planet that can kill a lion. And if you're 13 and you don't kill the lion, well, you don't come back to the tribe. You don't come back to mom, any of that stuff. And that journey, that hero's journey that they have to go out into the wild, that is all the trials and tribulations to man the fuck up. And we don't have that right now. Wow. And so people are a little bit lost. I think we just lost our way a little bit. I don't like to paint things, too bad and evil, like the evil cabal that's really here. I like to keep things in. I think this is all spiritual fodder for our own awakening. And as the Vedic scriptures talk about, this is the cosmic joke. This is just God playing God. God dropped a sheet of acid 50 million years ago and forgot. Now he's waking up and he's going, oh yeah, I'm God. Fucking A. This place is amazing. Let's have fun. That's what the story I'm telling myself. Otherwise, we're a bunch of fucking victims. And I'm an infinite being with infinite possibilities.
Are you telling yourself that, or you've noticed the nature of what's happening, and that's the narrative that has accumulated from your observation?
That's a fucking really good question. Both. The more I tell myself, the more I realize that.
Well, it sounds like you've also found a narrative that's congruent to your alignment. You found a narrative that supports your highest functionality, and you're not against yourself. I would say that that's alignment. You're like, oh, what's the narrative outside? Well, I don't know, it's cold, I'm going to put a jacket on accordingly.
Right.
If I walk outside and tell myself a narrative about what's happening that's not actually as it is, dysfunction arises. I hear either your system being hyper attracted, magnetized to upper octaves of alignment, and this narrative it's really probably sounds like the breadcrumbs you found, and it's not for no reasons.
Yeah, I think thank you for a little bit of ayahuasca. Thank you a little bit for the Maori healers, my meditation teacher, Goenka. It all helped. My alcoholism helped. My dad dropping me off on the side of the fucking road with all my belongings at 14 helped. Incredibly. That made me who I am.
I like talking about karmic mirrors. And I see for every human, your mother and father are your primary karmic mirrors for that gender. And so each of us have a relationship with our father. And whatever he didn't integrate, it's like impulsively organic for us to want to integrate that. Become it, their blind spots hyper, influence us because we didn't get affection, love, support, whatever the consciousness. I see Christ as just a misunderstanding of crystal prism. So your crystal prism was affected by dad showing up in that way, and then what year were you born? How old are you right now?
65. I'm 56.
Right.
Yeah, I was born in 1965.
Right. Same thing with my pops. It's like hyper development in one area or another area, or development foundationally here and there. It's like a mirror, because if I don't develop this kind of section of my identity, then I'm just kind of falling in line with something that's already happened. But it's like our souls need to evolve. And so like if you hadn't, obviously you could have just stayed in the path of the model vibe, but like that would have been death. You would have
model, photographer.
Interesting karma for you as well. It's like you're kind of like a hyper embodiment is like a foundational like theme, and then like the aesthetic kind of attention, and then like the reacclimation of, I think the medicines, that's what they do. They reacclimate the ego identity into being service oriented, and they utilize the ego's natural kind of impulses, and which I see as also karmic perfectness. That you're like, I want to fucking do this, extroversion, introversion, whatever the thing is. It's like, yeah, part of the perfect thing too. The sheet of acid, the proverbial sheet of acid. And then it's like, okay, well then what's the reacclimation of the high octave? Like, how can this be used for the highest way? It's like, all right, cool. Well, persona, cameras, YouTube, videos, brand. What's the highest way that this can be utilized? Health, wellness, physical integration with spiritual understanding. That's why one of the things I saw on your like signal that you were sending out, I was like, man, this is a vibe. And also for my pops to be able to recognize an aspect of, I think it was just the video of you talking to people with the masks on.
Well, just the truth rang, probably inspired him.
And
the truth is resonant.
All right,
it's common sense.
Man, truth, logic, common sense. He's screaming about that all the time.
Really?
Yeah,
it's common sense.
Yeah, but it's uncommon now.
Well, totally. But I saw to go back into what you said about the children. Like children and father, parents, that genealogy, that microcosm and the macrocosm. I look at my kids now. My kids are half Asian, so they don't totally look like me. And but yeah, I see so much beauty in my kids and so much evolution. Like I see some of the fire that my daughter has of me, and she's got some of my own little shortcomings I see that she's going to have to deal with later on. But they're such little wizards, and they're fully integrated, like physically, in so many different ways, and it's a joy.
Do you see the reality in them of the whole principle of like stand on shoulders, like what's the phrase? Stand on
the shoulders of giants,
or you like I see it quantumly as like a soul comes into the Gaia matrix system through the birth canal, and whatever consciousness developmentally that the two parents are at, that child basically is now standing on the shoulders of that vibratory signal.
Yeah, okay.
So it's like...
That makes sense.
So do you see them as like... I mean, obviously, they're getting a way different baton than you got.
They're ayahuasca babies. The visions came to me during that time, and then I brought them both back to the Amazon to work with the shamans, to sit in ceremony, to have a homeopathic dose of the medicine right, in the Amazon. They're completely impregnated with that. Yeah. And it shows. I mean, my son's just a complete, Zen master wizard. My wife has been calling him Yoda since day one. Have you met my kids yet?
Not yet.
Okay. And then Athena's just like an amazing firecracker, she's ready to push me out of the way and take over. Seriously.
Athena and
Troy.
Wow. Oh, it sounds a little historic.
I know, it sounds Greek, and I didn't even give it that contemplation. What happened was I didn't have a name for my son because we wanted something unique, like your name. I was looking, and we couldn't find anything. We were looking at maybe like Casper or something kind of unique and different, And my wife, after 2 weeks, people are like, you don't name your kid. And then my wife was like, well, just use your name. It's unique. And then I used my name, and then everybody on the internet was like, oh my God, you're ego tripping. You use your own name for your kid? It's like I couldn't win. So when Athena came, I was just like, no more fucking around. one of my friends was really good into nomenclature. Big shout out to Don Tolman, and he studied the school of Pythagoras, and he really understands language and symbolism. And Tyler Tolman is his son. I said, "Where's your pops get the, his names and stuff?" And he's like, gave me the obligatory, spiritual thing. He's like, meditate, come clear, and then go on the Celtic and the Greek goddess websites. And so I was already clear. I'm like, give me the name. And Athena was the first name. She's like the goddess of all goddesses. I'm like, that's it. And I wanted more grace in my life, so I put it right in her name. So her name's Athena Grace Casey. And that's like perfect for Hollywood or actor, or she can either shave the Casey or just, anyways, she's ready to go. She's completely branded coming out of the gate.
Wow.
She'll tell you, my name's Athena Grace Casey.
Wow. I hear her embodiment. All right, so you're giving your kids this foundation of consciousness and integration and clarity and truth, logic, common sense, etc. I've been like oriented to focusing on this very specific word, FOMO. FOMO has shown to my system as literally the primary cause of self-harm, misidentification, stress and anxiety, socially stress at least, different than physical stress, but it's the primary sense of depression and identity issues. And the baton's coming.
Yeah.
So I see you. I see someone like my pops. I see a lot of souls that are around here. Is like we're driven to our alignment. We're driven to being be your fucking self. We're driven to doing something with what we have.
Mm-hmm.
You got that. What are you gonna do with that? You got, man. What do I do with this thing? There's so many options. And if you use this thing in a slightly misaligned way, you become hyper aware of the other ways that you could have done it. Mm-hmm. And so you become fragmented. And I see that as kind of like quantum timelines showing the Christos itself, how it's not in alignment. The baton's coming. I see you as embodying this principle that is like, it's kind of came as a mantra that Yeshua gave to me, is like, understand this and you'll understand Christ. And it's miss out on nothing, which says moon, and moon just reflects light.
Miss out on nothing. I love it.
And so I see you doing that. I hear you talking about...
I still got the FOMO though, bro.
Why? Where? And I have...
I don't go to bed at night. I'm still fucking figuring I'm going to miss something out. I'm fucking... Like, I'm addicted to my computers as well, right?
Are you addicted to your computers, or are you addicted to your dharma that requires your computers?
I'm addicted to my mission.
That's dharma.
Flat the fuck out.
So are you navigating balance with technology that's required for your mission, and sleep and organic kind of bioelectricity?
Yeah, it's not completely unfettered, out of control.
Right.
For sure.
Because
I do get to bed at 11 or 12 when I know my bedtime is 9:30, 10.
It happens to the best of us.
So I'm just saying there's a hairline still left.
But I would say that gets, like the medicine, it reacclimates the thing that could be negative. But now you're saying like your FOMO is, a freaking pump, or like the green juice. You have FOMO if you miss out on good nutrients.
Right.
I have FOMO if I miss out on a loving, fully embodied, integral, crystal clear day. And I'm not utilizing all the ingredients that are present. But that's kind of, you call it positive FOMO. So I hear kind of nervous system.
I used to get pissed off, actually, when I was meditating for 6 years straight, pretty religiously, 2 hours a day. I would get angry that I wasn't getting my 2 hours in. And after a while of that kind of happening, well, just other aspects of my day. Like, I'd be like, fuck, I didn't meditate. And then I'd get all aggro, and I'd just write it off on that. Yeah. So I stopped meditating for that reason and told myself to fully integrate. So Vipassana is the sensations on the body, which goes through the nervous system, and we're never asleep. The alarm clock tickles us in the ear, the mosquito bites us, we scratch it all night long. We're never asleep. And so how cognizant and present can I be walking down the street, feeling my shoes wrapped around, feeling the wind on my hair, and being as present as possible? And so that's been my Vipassana meditation for the last 10 years or so. And
how embodied as possible.
Correct.
Yeah. Wait, are you saying that it's like...
As much as possible.
Yeah. Are you saying most folks don't really drip into a deep sleep because there's all these sensory kind of, pulls?
Oh, I mean, we have massive sleep disruption that's documented.
Well,
there's no doubt about that.
This is a segue to say, so I did that trauma therapy teacher training thing and got certified in somatic practicing. And there's this kind of Christ as the nervous system framework.
Yep, the light.
That looks,
Christos.
right, so that looks at the central column and the cerebrospinal fluid, and then this main kind of component to regulating a healthy nervous system, the vagus nerve, as like really a way to kind of determine anybody's state of health, not just health, but also their integration, because this is a bridge between, right here within it, it's called the wandering nerve. It's the nerve that regulates the state of, you call it mood always. It's literally the mood determiner. But it's like I hear also in the Czech kind of philosophy stuff, and also in this kind of wrap around back to the FOMO concept is like, yeah, if you experience high peak states of wellness, that's like kind of a positive trauma, because now if you don't experience that, at least a certain bandwidth octave of wellness, you kind of have FOMO for it, which I would say that's what happened with my yogic initiation. All of a sudden, I hit those moments where I was like super relaxed. A day would go by, if I don't have that again, I miss it.
Right.
But that makes my ego obey my alignment. So my mind turns to the soul's requirement. So I call that missing out on nothing, because the moon of the mind now starts to obey Christ, the central sun, Manipura, solar plexus identity. The main source of integrated upward functioning, meaning crystal clear consciousness, proper articulation and reception of food, but also the exporting of thought in social context as speech, regulation of emotions and the thyroid and the thymus, and an open heart and open receptivity to what is. Then I have everything I need. I'm articulated in my sexual identity, and that aspect of the nervous system is functional. And then boom, it meets where? It meets in the cross, the central axis of everything that I am. I can't miss out on a certain level of pristine calibration of that. And that, I would say, is this like, we're in matrix, and at some point somebody hits this suffering point that causes them either to dip, delay it, or embody it. And it's like the suffering is intense, and that's I think all souls have that moment of like an intersection in the road, and you do something. I saw Andre 3000 one time at a cafe just playing this flute, and I walked up to him, and I was just like, bro, I can feel that you got touched by the medicine. And I was like, I'm Ted's son, and I got a DMT shaman if you want one. And he was like, wow, I'm glad you said something. I just sat with Aya last weekend. I was like, whoa, I'm glad I came up and said hi. But I could feel that signal in a lot of folks like this, that's like, man, something happened. What the fuck happened? Because then I go to my folks, or I go to Texas, and I'm just interfacing with, God bless the Muggles, but what's fucking going on that's not happening there?
It's an ayahuasca deficit.
But it's a consciousness deficit. Aya is this inhibitor. It's the, funny terminology.
Yeah, that's
MAOI inhibitor, but it's like the inhibitor of the dysfunctional consciousness. Wild backwards segue that's going to come back, but
I like your whole thesis on things. I like, you want to send me that video, your last diatribe over there, because I'll post that. I like that, and we probably got that in my interview on.
Yeah, I mean that.
But I like that whole. I like where your head is going. You're trying to piece it together, and I've been trying to piece it together for a long time as well. I have a cross up here. I know the cross is here. There's also a cross here. The pineal gland is here, and you got right and left hemispheres of the brain. For sure. And then this is the all-seeing, all-knowing, and then this is the experience, right? That's coming out of the eyes. My idea. Go ahead.
Interesting baton there. So I take people who work with me through this really quick moment. So you can look through the eyes, and then also look elsewhere while you're looking through your body's eyes. So right now, become aware of the outside of your left pinky toe. Now become aware of a park that you had a lot of fun on as a kid. And you haven't augmented where your eyeballs are looking. But sight isn't locally based. sight is electromagnetically based. And it's non-temporal, it's temporarily based. I do that because I got kicked out of Rocco. And I started coming back into Rocco. But then I got addicted to getting out of Rocco, because outside of Rocco, I was it. Every time I got back stuck in Rocco, I was like, the only thing that's in the way is Rocco. How do I make Rocco harmonious, or at least not in the way? The only thing that I have issue with is Rocco. What do I do with Rocco? Became my deep need, seek. So yeah, the ajna has, the chakra system is, we could dive into a whole thing with just the chakra system. But, this whole thing with...
Well, let's keep it on point, because we want to really touch and tickle the people. We're in a precarious situation of awakening right now.
So I think the main thing, at least in my system for that, is this FOMO thing and this missing out on nothing thing. Because
missing out on nothing is great. I love that.
That's my book.
Everybody knows about FOMO, but the moon is...
Okay,
that's the shit.
So let's make it integral to your kids, and them not, obviously you don't want them to live a life of fear, of suffering unnecessarily, but you want probably just like the most helpful use of suffering possible, that it inspires their growth and evolution. Quick baton. What is it that you recommend to people that work with you, or that you feel like it's your... I see everybody as a mirror for each other. So when you see someone that shows up and wants to work with you, they're obviously a mirror for you, and you're probably helping them based on what they're lacking. But they're on this old template of identity, and they're wanting to integrate into this new template of identity as functional. How do you guide people away from what's dysfunctional into what's hyperfunctional, the highest use of their everything they are?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's very simple. What does the heart desire? And, maybe an exercise or two to help them understand that. But what does the heart desire? Get out of the head. What do you truly want? What do you love to do? What did you do as a kid? What just makes your heart sing? Do you like to ride bicycles? Do you like to ride horses? Or do you like to cook food? Do you like to grow food? Do you like to, teach? You like to take care of kids? You like to make babies like me? What is...
So you help them point at their...
And then we build a lifestyle around that. You're going to need your health for that.
Nutrition.
You're going to need your sleep for that. You're going to need to replicate your eyeballs, which comes from organic matter and minerals and nutrients.
What's the fastest way that you articulate for someone where they're imprisoned? Meaning
I don't go into the negative. I only go. I drag them.
I've heard you go a little bit about agenda 20s, 30s, some awareness of the negative helps you kind of get away from it. No,
correct. Yeah, I'm not Pollyanna. I don't want to be naive, and I do use the negative.
What's Pollyanna?
Just naivete, just thinking that
Sounds like.
I don't know what the definition of Pollyanna is.
Sounds like a progressive relationship with someone named Anna.
Maybe I can get a date with her.
If there's more than one, maybe as well.
Yeah.
Well, no, I asked because it's all right. I gotta come back to the baton.
Well, I just want to get people focused on what they desire. The other shit's always going to get in the way and show up. But what do you truly desire? What is the heart desire? And there's so much programming and social engineering around that. It's challenging to get people to that, but it's very simple. And I put this in my book.
Yes, it is very simple. The alignment allows it, but it's also this weird cacophony of chaos out there that is constantly pulling at everyone's attention.
People are programmed against themselves that they can't do it.
Quick baton segue back to Steiner, Rudolf Steiner. Yeah. I got really fascinated by some occult esoteric texts of his. You know the term Ahriman? So Steiner had this understanding, and this is my understanding, if anybody's listening, it's better Steiner than I.
The aliens, right?
Well, archons.
Archon energy.
So shout out to David Icke. Alex Jones told me that I can come on a show whenever. And
really?
I was just like, what are you talking about with Alex Jones? Like, whoa. Well, so David Icke, got aware of him. All that, David Icke?
Yeah.
All the Archon stuff, hyper emphasis on Matrix is like, okay, I get it. You got to be aware of a little bit of the situation because it's where you get stuck.
A little bit.
Yeah, find your love, find your alignment. Yes, but why isn't that just the norm? So, from my gathering of this Steiner kind of insight, he saw it as a three-prong evolution of literal everything. It's a three-prong, kind of like a trident. Maybe actually another variation, lensing of what Shiva is, in my opinion, of what he was seeing. But he saw it as Christ is not Jesus as a person. Jesus was the blueprint. Yahshua is the blueprint, but Christ is the natural, highest organic utilization of consciousness possible, and it's what the universe, it's what Earth, it's what consciousness wants to evolve as. And it's the center of this three-pronged thing. Then you have this wobble that is still evolution, but it's now evolution in a way that kind of is destroying things, but it's also hyper-progressive because it utilizes its intelligence in the highest way. But it's a little bit selfish, and it therefore causes some destruction nearby. And he called that Lucifer. And then he said, there's something that actually makes Lucifer look super integrated and actually helpful. And he calls it Ahriman. And he compares it to this Greco-Roman framework of what Saturn became Satan, and it's literally the demiurge's consciousness. So he's saying Ahriman's addiction is actually destroying things. So it's consciousness like volcano, hurricane, tornado, but that gets embodied as a human being. So this was like in a 1920 text or something like that. And I'm reading this text, and I'm thinking about where he was anthropologically.
This is his anthroposophy, his spiritual side, which I haven't delved into. I've stayed mostly on the child development stuff. But go ahead.
Which makes sense for the framework.
And the results show up in my children, right?
Beautiful.
So I'm not following some fucking crazy motherfucker that's got stupid ideas, and they can find a text from his anthroposophy and go, this guy's nuts and he's into aliens. No, I have results from my children that show.
And I think that
from the theory that I was taught from Paul Chek.
And whatever someone could say about Steiner or someone else that's dove really deep into what someone could say is crazy shit.
I'm living Steiner principles. It's not bullshit.
Yeah, so that part. And I think an awareness of, and again, this is like a concept that's like, not everybody reads like esoteric Steiner texts, but I'm saying this to say that for me was like a moment of like, wow, that's helpful to understand that there is a chaos brewing that if I don't have conscious awareness of its effects on me, at least, I might succumb or be affected in a way that constantly either disables or destabilizes my desire to find what I love, to find my alignment. And to me, that's extra framework for saying, and the Archon conversation is obviously a deep dive. If you don't know what Archons are, check it out if it's relevant to you. But it might not be for some people because it gets them in their head. But for people like you and I, and obviously David Icke and probably some others, having an awareness of like...
start explaining the unexplainable.
Yeah, that's it.
So, is there a question there?
It's a kind of...
Can you reiterate the 3 points again?
Ahriman, Christ, and Lucifer. And
the Ahriman is what again?
It's basically Satan. But to me, it's a more articulate understanding of Satan.
What's the difference between Lucifer and Satan? Because Lucifer is illumination, right?
Yeah, so I would say Lucifer is basically Venus in orientation to self-service, which can turn into hyper cutting-edge evolutionary design, artistic embodiment. This other framework called the Teachings of Ra, Law of One, the Ipsum framework, it says there's service to self and there's service to others. And so that's also, it creates ripples. It creates ripples around your auric body. And your auric body stores your quantum electromagnetism. So that's your karmic tissue. So if you're basically creating hyper functional dope shit for the world, but you're a dick to everybody, sounds like Steve Jobs. Or elsewise. That's also...
I got a little bit of that in me, and most of my spiritual development is quelling the inner asshole.
Right. So your awareness
Most of my tools, including organic food and sleep, is just to make sure that I'm presentable and I can be biochemically kind.
So
Think
this
about it.
this is
Because kind is a socially engineered. Like, why doesn't everybody just be kind? You know,
for social premise. It's bullshit.
well, we're shitting in the waterways. We're poisoning the children.
That's not kind.
I mean, things are pretty fucked up right now. So a little bit of anger for that, you see somebody raping a little girl or something, use that testosterone to stop that fucking shit.
Right.
And that's what's happening with the commons and
Muggles?
It's what's happening in the air, water, and soil. It's being poisoned, and we all live here. That's not fair.
So I had a DMT psilocybin experience where it was like looking at humanity as these kind of neutral hominid, like naked mole rat monkey type creatures, and it's like, why would a creature like that destroy itself so actively just violent towards itself, towards its environment? And this biomimicry thing, I think this is the baton. It's like, I mean, I guess I could give it to you faster and just saying, like, how important is it to have context? Because you're saying, find your calling, find your dharma, at least is what I call it, your alignment, your health, yes. But it's like, if it's old days, it's just like, yeah, let's just stay in our teepee and develop our stuff. It's like there's bears outside. There's wolves and they attack like this. This is the way that they attack. This is the way that they infiltrate our village. And there's also these other beings that can actually mimic our villagers and then infiltrate our community. And then while we're interacting with them, they implant these inorganic identities, inorganic thoughts, inorganic motives, and it disorients us and it could actually topple our productivity. So it might be an esoteric-y, heady conversation, but I see that, and this is why I'm trying to baton it to you, is because I think it's a really valuable thing to be aware of for those that it's relevant for. Some it's just relevant to just focus on peace, love, and light. Fantastic, good for you. But it sounds like for people like this, there's some kind of warrior energy. Warrior energy doesn't want to just focus on love and light. Warrior energy is meant to focus on love and light, but also the most dangerous potential issues to the collective. And then to become prepared, armored for those things. So, I mean, I hear, and I'm not just asking a question as much as like sharing this moment with you as like a brother and as a mirror. I see this warrior frequency in you that obviously growing up with my pops, like I got a lot of the warrior frequency, but I didn't have the peace and love and the wellness and the meditation. But then I started meditating all this and I got really feminine. And I was like, I had a teacher tell me, I was like, you've kind of yinned your shit out, like maybe yang it a bit. I was like, yeah, okay, push-ups or whatever. But it's that integration that allows me to be, and I feel my daughter, I feel my son. They're not in physical presence yet, but I feel them, and I'm like, holy shit. I have this motivation to be the father that, as a reflection, I know what I don't want, and I know what I do want, and I see these dark, malevolent frequencies, and it's like, yeah, it's like in village kind of folklore frequency description. It's like, yeah, be aware of the shadows, be aware of these things that are really dangerous, because that's when your love and light gets fucking shit on. And if you don't have a sharp sword, I don't give a fuck how much you meditate.
That's the truth. That's the truth. And I think the warrior spirit is necessary, especially for what's going on right now. I think we've been domesticated and that has been engineered out of us. And, but how do you awaken a human populace? It's no different from the concrete that goes over the chute of grass. You can't kill the human spirit. It's coming through no matter what. Even that pressure is going to, this oppression that we're dealing with, this totalitarian tiptoe of sit down, shut up, wear a mask, get vaccinated, stick poison in you, go to this job. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a trained person above our educational system. I went out and created something from nothing, right? Many times over. And so, I'm outside of the system just from that entrepreneurial training. And the system is so entrenched to keep the system going. And so it's just, for me, it's just the systems are no longer working, right? The fiat currency systems, the debt slave system, the farming system. We're growing all this food that's poison. It's over with. And, organics outperform that. Steiner proved that. The Asians proved that. Organics outperform all this stuff. We need new education. We need new money. We need new farming. We need new commerce. Media fucking lies. What the hell? This is the new media. Straight from the horse's mouth. Minimal editing. What is human beings doing? You don't need a nightly news report that some corporation bought. They bought every single thing that you are watching out of the news has been paid for.
You seen that video? It's like, not to do brought to you by Pfizer. Brought to you by
Pfizer.
You seen that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I've known this for years. The pharmaceutical companies, they dominate. 25% of all cancer drugs and 42% of all drugs on the market get their impetus from rainforest plants. So they study the phytochemistry of the most powerful plants on the planet.
And then mimic it.
And they try to mimic it and synthesize it, and then they sell you synthetic drugs. I know this because Shaman Pharmaceuticals tried to make Croton Lecheri, the Sangre de Drago, into an antiviral herpes drug, and it was very promising. They spent $89 million on it, and towards the end of the research, this alkaloid became so deadly they had to scrap the research because it was killing people. And but if it's antiviral activity in this thing, why don't you just take the fucking plant? But there's no money to be made from nature. You can't patent nature. They tried to with ayahuasca, and the Indians and the Peruvians, they got really pissed. I heard this was in the 70s where they tried to patent it. And they just weren't having it.
Wow.
And which is cool. That's typical human spiritual uprising.
Yeah.
That's what's happening right now. That's what's happening in Sedona. People are being displaced off of their properties from Airbnb. Now, I like capitalism, but we don't have capitalism. We have crony capitalism, which is socialism. So the oil companies are subsidized. The milk pasteurized food industry is subsidized.
Wait, for those...
McDonald's is not cheap food. You are paying for it, and you're paying for everyone's healthcare costs. But that's part of the pharmaceutical, agribusiness, oil, petrodollar, and media-owned, conglomerates.
Wait, unpack crony capitalism, because I think that's a nice articulation.
Subsidies.
So unpack subsidies.
So subsidies is the government gives tax breaks, which is a lot of money, right? As an entrepreneur, I get taxed a certain percentage. That's X amount of thousands of dollars, right? If I was subsidized, no taxes for Troy. How much more business can I do? How much more money is in my bank account?
You meaning that there's incentives for these companies that are making shit.
Correct.
And so the system is...
They don't have to pay taxes. They don't have regulations on them. They don't have to... even, how about this? Here's some taxpayer money. Here's a few million. Here's, so you got tax breaks and you got cash. This is subsidized. And the oil industry is subsidized.
Yeah, where's the motivation to be organic?
Harvard, Yale, these type of things, they're all ideas that are just made up. They're certificates that are just made up, right? That's what we can never forget. So if that's the case, then we can make up everything that we want creatively. And so subsidies, so you're looking at like a Bear Stearns, or you're looking at like BlackRock or Vanguard, these investment funds. You're looking at banks, Goldman Sachs. The fractional reserve lending, and Michael Moore did a whole documentary on the Wall Street and the housing crisis. The fact of the matter is, they paid the banks. They bailed out the banks. We invented this trillions of dollars of paper and zeros and ones during Obama. Bush gave $1 trillion into the economy before he left, and then Obama gave another $1 trillion. And I heard the statistic that they bailed out the banks with that money. And if they would have given it to the people, to me and you, we could have bought a 3-bedroom house 18 times over for every man, woman, and child in the United States of America. So that's 350 million people. So we didn't bail out us, we bailed out the banks that actually tanked the housing market in the first place. So that's subsidized. So it's not that Bank of America is a better business than the flower shop or the organic, chocolate tree cafe or the juicery. No, Chase Bank and Bank of America and all these other things are not more successful entities because of that. It's because they're subsidized.
Because they're supported.
They're supported
by an infected system.
Millions and billions of dollars. They're not as effective. It's crony capitalism, which is not capitalism. It is socialism.
I hear the word crony, and I think there's I hear this archetype of those are cronies, and it's I think it's a communist term from back in the day, the Red Scare, cronies, and it's
well, it's trying to take everyone's wealth and then disperse it evenly. But there's no fucking evenly. They're giving it to the milk industry that pasteurizes milk and uses RHBST hormone disruptor and glyphosate on the farms, and they subsidize glyphosate. And Monsanto was a chemical company. 1902, they manufactured Agent Orange and napalm, and now they're feeding the world with genetically engineered seed and glyphosate, and aspartame was invented by them. These things are all poisons, and they're totally allowed to go on the marketplace. Monsanto is also a war profiteer. If they're making napalm and they're making Agent Orange, war profiteers, these corporations, they make so much money. What are you going to do after the war? Well, let's put these products in the food. Everybody eats, and that's what they did. They poisoned the food.
That's Armand.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
hellfire. That's fuckery.
It's engineered chaos for the detriment of life.
Yeah.
Because some would benefit selfishly.
To awaken the Christ consciousness in all of us.
So to get you out of here on schedule, we talk about a lot of things. I love you so much. I'm so grateful to have connected with you on this Sedona
We
trip.
ain't over, bro. We got a lot of work to do.
This is the beginning, obviously. In closing, anything that feels on the tip of your heart, as I like to call it, that you want to, we talked about a lot of stuff, but in closing, what's the Troy Casey framework in a nutshell that you could give as a gift in closing, and what you want to point people's attention at?
Well, I just want everybody to know that, they are the gift they're seeking. They are the miracle. They are the solution to the coronavirus. You are the sound of reason in the craziness that's happening in the world. You are the miracle that you're looking for. Anybody that's watching this that wants to read my book, I'll send it free copy digitally to anyone. That's my gift to everyone. All my thousands of videos I made in the rainforest starting in 2006, water birth with my children, working with the Maori and other indigenous healers for the last 16 years. All that's free on my YouTube channel, and we migrated it onto Rumble just in case I get more censored than I already am. TroyCasey.com, CertifiedHealthNut.com, my merch company. We have email lists everywhere. Get on those, because we don't know what's going to happen with the YouTube, Facebook, and commercial entities. And the grid can go down. So, you can always tap in to your soul and connect to it all if the grid goes down. But I have Qigong videos. I just released one. It's free. It's my gift for people. Medical Qigong heals everything. So look it up. And yeah, God bless everyone. And it's such a great time to be alive. And I'm just so grateful for everything. Thank you so much, Rocco. You're the motherfucking man.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate your just awesome integrity and embodiment, and that warrior that also, you found this thing to do with your persona that's service oriented.
Yep.
And I think that's a really cool thing. And thank you for the way that you show up and all the stuff that you're doing. And obviously, this is just the beginning for our collaboration.
I'm having a lot of fun, baby.
Cool.
A lot of fun. Catch me outside. Hey, shut up, Bob.
Fucking upside down. kind of looked at it like, what just happened?
Run that back real quick.
Run
We
it.
did all your apple juice right?
No, it's a perfect roll. I practiced jiu-jitsu the day before.
One more time.
So for Bob, know what the hell I'm talking about. Okay, 10 ciders for me.
The model math.
The best part, 10 ciders for me. It's like the best part.
You gotta pay attention, dude. You get the fucking...
Trying to blame it on him, but I know better.
Fucking the way the thing's geared, I hit the curb and it slid on the curb. Alright, see that? Don't be recording live. You know, if you psycho chickens, fuck, man. Ah, fuck.